So you're conducting the market studies and the research, and now you're really creating campaigns. Not just little viral videos or anything like that. It's whole campaigns.
Whole campaign.
Who are you, and what have you done with IFNW?
New world. It's so exciting. It really is.
This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. I'm going to give you a challenge. Tourism is the biggest sector of Maine's economy, and it's lobsters and lighthouses that entice many of those visitors to Maine. And that's good for southern and coastal Maine. But Maine's outdoors is bigger than that. We have so much more to offer. If it were your job to market our scenery, wildlife, hunting, fishing, boating, snowmobiling, and all those outdoor experiences, how would you do it? Well, that job does belong to somebody, and that's the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And the point person for getting it done is Emily McCabe. Seriously, is there any other state in New England that can hold a candle to Maine? We got a good thing going, and we can make money off the very experiences that many of us take for granted. Marketing the Maine outdoors. That's the subject of today's show. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Well, Emily McCabe, welcome to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Hope I didn't take you by surprise. What is your title?
I am the promotional coordinator for the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you get neat stuff with that?
I do. I always joke that title doesn't really explain anything, does it?
It doesn't really, no. What would be the deeper explanation? I mean, you get your fingerprints on a lot of stuff.
I do. I wear a lot of hats. I'm involved in our outreach programming. I do a lot of our communications work, oversee our social media, attend a lot of public events. In a nutshell, my job is basically to tell the story of the work that we do and kind of highlight our staff.
Mm-hmm. This is a family thing. You're married to a game warden, right?
I am, yes. Or he is married to me.
Yeah, right.
I've been here longer. So.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. So here's the basis for this radio show today. We've got this great big outdoors. How can we make money off it?
That's an interesting perspective.
Well, I mean, Maine Office of Tourism has the overall marketing task for attracting people to the state of Maine and even attracting Mainers to do things in Maine that spreads the money around our economy a little bit. So they've got the big one, and they have traditionally spent a lot of time marketing lobsters and lighthouses, and that's changed a little bit recently over there, but there's still a niche for the outdoors that the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Department has to step into.
That's true. We've worked closely with the Office of Tourism over the years, and as you mentioned, they have that umbrella of kind of selling Maine as a destination for lobsters and lighthouses. Mm-hmm. But of course, those of us who live and work and visit Maine know that there's many, many other elements for us to enjoy here. And because our work at Fish and Wildlife is related, very closely to fish and wildlife resources, outdoor activities, it makes sense for us to fill in that area. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we definitely focus on promoting Maine as a destination to hunt and fish, of course, because those are what we would consider traditional uses of the outdoors. Recently, we've shifted gears and really tried to expand the communication we do around that to include other types of outdoor uses as well that relate to the work that we do.
Yeah, because the work you do is more than just hunting and fishing.
Correct.
You're in charge of boat safety. You're in charge of snowmobile safety, ATVs. All that stuff comes back sooner or later to the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. That's
right. And we, if you asked me even 5 years ago who our audience is, I would have just quickly answered hunters and anglers. Mm-hmm. And in maybe even recreational, vehicle users as well. But more recently, it's become obvious to us that our users also expand to wildlife watchers, people who canoe, hike, people who walk their dogs even at wildlife management areas or public lands. That all falls under us as well. And that's also an audience that, we need to reach out to and communicate with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Maine Office of Tourism. They also have changed their mission a little bit. It used to be almost exclusively lobsters and lighthouses, maybe a few moose now and then.
That's right.
But they seem to be getting more promotional about some of the experiences you can have in Maine, whitewater rafting, or snowmobiling, all the things that you can really enjoy Maine for besides lobsters and lighthouses. So how much do you actually work with them in any kind of coordination?
But basically, our connection to them is still focused solely on recruiting hunters and anglers from out of state. They support us in that effort. We travel throughout the Northeast and attend sportsman shows. And while we're at sportsman shows, our staff who's attending is really focused on selling the Maine experience. So we cover the messaging that, of course, they're focused on. If you come to Maine, it's the overall experience. It's the opportunity to spend time outdoors, spend time with your families. We are, of course, the experts on talking about the amazing hunting and fishing that we have, and snowmobiling and ATVing. But we also try to include their messaging as well when we're there and really promote the state as a whole. We focus a lot on promoting hiring guides and outfitters and staying at lodges and camps. Making it a family experience. Oftentimes we'll have an individual come up to us at a show and ask, I want to come to Maine and go fishing. What else can my family do while we're there? So we want to be prepared to be able to give them those opportunities as well.
Now, do you ever get to go on those?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I attend quite a few of the shows. They generally run from the end of January through March and lead up to when our in-state sportsman shows begin here. So that's sort of the cycle, and I attend quite a few of them.
Okay, can you take me one time?
I'd love to, yeah.
I'd be good at this.
It's a really, really good experience, honestly. What I enjoy about it is how excited people are to learn more about Maine. You have these conversations with people who've never been to Maine, but they always say, I've always wanted to plan a trip to Maine. Like maybe meeting you and talking to you about it will be the catalyst to get me to plan this trip. So
I'd like to get somebody before it's on their bucket list. Somebody who's less than 70. Now, it's an obvious thing that you would go to sportsman shows around the country.
Yes.
Are there other events that you partner along with Maine Office of Tourism that aren't specifically sporting events?
No, not currently.
Shouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you'll see right now is a turning point for us. We're really ramping up our communication efforts. We've opened the door to working with professional vendors. That's a new step for us, but it's been really exciting, and it's going to elevate our ability to communicate with the public in a much more professional, complete way. We're working to redevelop a lot of the materials that we put out, our hunting guide, we're almost completed our fishing, what are we calling it? The recreational map. It used to be called the hunting and fishing map, but it's expanded. But so that's a project that we work with tourism on to make sure that we're including other elements that make it a more well-rounded tool for people.
And those comprehensible.
But working with professional designer and writer for some of those things has really allowed us to increase our ability to communicate effectively.
You're listening to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Emily McCabe is the point person for marketing Maine's great outdoors to the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. One of the first tasks in any marketing effort is to figure out who you're marketing to. There's a lot of different groups you want to reach, both inside and outside the state. Some hunt and fish, some bike and hike, some ride sleds and ATVs. We'll break them up and sort them out in a moment. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. I'm in the office of Emily McCabe at the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. This is no ordinary office. I'm surrounded by T-shirts, sweatshirts, and other promotional items that are available for purchase from the department. Emily doesn't work in an office. This is more like a supply closet with lots of cool stuff. First rule of marketing Maine's great outdoors is to figure out who you're marketing to. So let's break all this up into tiny pieces. We want to deliver messages to a lot of different groups.
Right.
And they're not the same groups.
Exactly.
You've got multiple tasks to accomplish with very limited resources.
We do.
Well, let's talk about the messages we need to deliver to out-of-staters to encourage them to, let's do the basics, hunt and fish in Maine. We've got the sporting shows that you can get to go to. What else have we got?
I think that, a great tool that we have is our staff. We have a very dynamic, experienced, passionate staff. Many
Unlike
of them,
all the other states.
I don't know. I like to think of Maine as being a little unique. I don't often look at what other states are doing and just copy that. I think Maine has a lot of unique characteristics, and I've worked here at this agency for well over a decade, and I've gotten to know the people who work here, and many of them are users of the outdoors, and they're passionate and they have unique skills, and using them as sort of the experts in these things is an advantage for us, and letting them tell the story of what Maine has to offer. So we're working to create a video series where it's sort of like a how-to video series that people will see from us, and we're using our staff to kind of educate the public on the skills they need to hunt and fish specifically in Maine. What you need to prepare for. So that's a tool for somebody who's visiting our state. We have very active social media, and we have a customer service-based strategy to our social media, and it's a place for people who are planning a trip to Maine who can contact us. And that happens often, where people say, I'm visiting this part of Maine. Is there any chance I could talk to the warden or biologist or someone in that area to prepare me? And
I mean, usually the question would be, where can I see a moose?
that question comes up too.
That has to be the number one. Is that the number one question?
It used to be, but I can't say that it is anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think now people, they're looking for advice on how to approach coming to Maine and hunting and fishing. And we want them to see our staff as approachable and knowledgeable, and opening up that door for people is something that we're working to do more of. That is something that we're working on right now, and we're going to really increase what we've provided for people on our YouTube channel. As odd as that sounds, in this day and age, people look for information online, and they may not have a friend or family member who can teach them how to hunt and fish, so we're trying to find ways to get that information out to them.
So you've got these messages, especially for hunting and fishing. What other messages to out-of-staters about ATV use, snowmobiles?
Something that's really, really important, and that is also in the area that we're going to be ramping up, is talking about land access. Of course, most people realize that most of Maine, 90% of Maine, is privately owned, and accessing land to do those types of things like ATVing and snowmobiling especially, having access to that land is very critical to being able to enjoy those sports. So we're really working hard to alleviate some of the issues that we have between land owners and land users, but also to help raise awareness to people that this is a privilege. It needs to be respected, and we have these incredible opportunities to ride and to explore on land in Maine, but that needs to be protected too. So that's really, really important messaging for us. It truly is. It's the key to everything.
I agree. I think it may be the most important thing the department does.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how many deer and moose we have, if you can't get to them,
right,
it's not a resource that's of any use to you.
Absolutely, and we really, it's important that our hunters and anglers and people who trap are an important part of conservation and how we manage a healthy population. And if they don't have access to places to hunt and fish, then that's a real problem.
I'm on private land doing that all the time. And
we all are, really.
Yeah. And if I see a mattress in the woods, I get so angry. Somebody is screwing up my experience by jeopardizing a relationship with the landowner.
Or disappointing when you see, a road that's been torn up or used irresponsibly. It is frustrating, and so that's important messaging, and that's something that we are getting ready to launch a pretty significant communications campaign around.
Yeah. I get physically angry when I see somebody misusing private land.
I absolutely agree.
Well, you also have the mission of moving in-state residents around to do stuff. So what's your outreach to them, and how it might be different?
I think that people who are coming to Maine, they get on 95 and they head up the coast, and it's very important to help people understand how expansive the opportunities here are. So through communication, through the use of social media, we're hoping to really help people understand that there are lots of different parts of Maine to explore. Northern Maine, for example, is just a tremendous place to recreate, and if you're coming into our state, it almost seems intimidating, perhaps, to travel that far north. So we really enjoy working with guides and outfitters and people who represent different parts of the state. We encourage them to work with us on communication projects so that we can tell the story of all the different things there are to do in Maine, so that when people come to our state, they move beyond the coastline. You know, not that there isn't anything spectacular about the coastline as well, but the mountains, the lakes, the expansive woods are an awesome place to plan a trip, and pushing people a little harder to move deeper into our state, I think is something I've personally tried to work towards.
Yeah, isn't it astonishing when you meet people who are Maine natives who have never been north of Bangor?
Yeah. I always ask people when I'm out of state, if they've said they've been to Maine, I always ask, of course, I want to know where they've been. And it's like, oh, I've been to Kittery. I'm like, well, that is technically Maine.
And Bar Harbor.
And it's fantastic. Yeah, and Bar Harbor is definitely a common answer. Although in the last couple years, we've been doing a lot of traveling in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and a lot of people enjoy Allagash. Like the people who have been to Maine, it's often I ask them where they've been, and Allagash is a popular destination. So you can't really get a whole lot further north, right? Exactly. So there are people who are craving those kind of bigger adventures, and sort of fostering that and promoting the idea of venturing further into Maine, I think is really important. Getting them into those communities that really need the business, they need the tourism dollars as well. So,
yeah, anyone who's ever been in a snowmobiling and hasn't been up to Dean's Motor Lodge in Portage Lake, I mean, come on, go.
Right?
Exactly.
That's the experience. But we do have some really significant communication tools at our fingertips. We use email marketing as a really powerful tool to communicate with people. So we're working harder to create good content for our emails and target messaging. But we are just now starting to use an ad agency to help us build our list, so that we're communicating with newer people who aren't already coming to Maine, to grow that communication tool. It's very effective. And of course, we have extremely active social media, and that's a tool as well to get messaging out.
We've got the messaging ability, but what are we going to message? Emily McCabe is in charge of that at Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. We've not only got a lot of different activities that visitors might like, but they occur in different parts of the state. Even for Mainers, how are you going to use this beautiful state of ours? We'll get into it with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine as we return on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. I'm in the office of Emily McCabe at the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Maine is full of great outdoor adventures, plenty of wildlife, lots of scenery, and a lot of it is hidden away. The Maine Office of Tourism takes the lead on how to get people to visit Maine and bring their money, but IFW has a role to play, especially around hunting and fishing, but also a lot of the other outdoor recreation we do, Emily.
Yeah.
I mean, you can break it up. You get down east, or you can go north as far as Aroostook County. You can go into the Sugarloaf Rangeley
Western
area.
Maine. That's my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
I love to promote that.
Yeah, get over to the Bethel area. How many Mainers get over to Bethel? Not that many.
No, and they should. It's beautiful.
Oh, I know it. So we get all these great places.
We do.
But we all get into our habits of going back to the same place over and over.
That's right.
We don't experiment very much. And the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife is familiar with all these places.
Right.
You even have assets in some of these places.
We do.
Wildlife management areas. I just discovered you own like 77 dams in the state that control water levels. So IFWs everywhere. We do things to increase participation with our own state citizens. I'm thinking of Big Bo, which you were involved with for many years, becoming an outdoor woman.
Yeah. Which is a thriving program, which I think Maine has been active with Becoming Outdoors Woman for over 20 years, and we're still seeing just incredible attendance at those workshops, and that includes non-residents. We get a significant number of women who come from out of state to attend those workshops as well, so that need is still there, and we're continuing with that program, and it's really exciting. It
seemed to have jumped all of a sudden at one point where it just grew exponentially in popularity. Can you pinpoint when that happened?
I kind of can.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I oversaw the program for 10 years, and it stayed active, but it was very steady. We had a similar number of participants each year, and I kind of tracked if we were getting new participants or just women who would come year after year, and it sort of seemed a little flat, almost to the point where I thought, you know what, maybe we've saturated this. Maybe the need isn't there. And then I would say probably in the last 4, maybe 5 years, it just kind of skyrocketed. We started to see a lot more new participants, somewhat younger participants, and that was exciting. And I think that was in line with maybe a trend, nationally of more women wanting to get involved in specifically hunting and fishing. But of course, Bo introduces women to other types of outdoor activities as well. But specifically shooting sports, those topics would always fill up very quickly at the workshops. So
that seems to have really jumped in a hurry.
It really did. Just on that small little measurement that I have of it, it certainly became obvious that shooting sports with archery and firearms use increased significantly. Not even just for hunting, but just for sport, target shooting, even competitively, women were more interested. So that was kind of neat.
Well, you're a younger woman. Can you
Thank you.
Can you recognize why other younger women have suddenly started to get more interested in outdoor recreation and even shooting sports?
Just from my perspective, I think that it started to become more socially acceptable for women to get involved in those sports. Of course, growing up, being active in hunting and fishing my entire life, I sort of was unaware that it wasn't, normal for girls. I just kind of grew up, being taught that it was, if you were interested in it, then you did it. It didn't matter if you were male or female. But that isn't the experience that everybody has. And when I started working with the Becoming Outdoors Women program, I met lots and lots of women who didn't grow up in households where it was an activity that they were, encouraged to participate in. And then, realizing, and maybe this is through good marketing across our country, that it's a healthy sport to participate in. Getting outdoors is very good for your health. It's good for your family, things like that. The word health tends to pop up a lot, and people want to be healthy and they want to be active. So, it's another fun, interesting way to be active and get your family outdoors. We're all looking for ways to get away from the computer, right?
I know.
And that's one of them.
Yeah, one of the reasons I go into the woods is because I don't get cell phone service
exactly. There. So nice.
I don't want to be found.
Yeah, and that's a reality for lots of people. So, I don't know if it's one specific thing that changed. I think it was just a greater awareness for people that it's another way to be active and to gain peace of mind, really.
There was probably a cultural norm for a while that you thought about hunting as you would think about deer camp.
Yeah.
Where all the guys get together, play poker and drink beer at night, and then go out hunt in the morning. And it was kind of a guy thing.
Yeah.
That has kind of disappeared almost altogether.
A little bit, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody needs an outlet to get away and enjoy it. And if it's getting away with the guys and playing poker, that's fine too. But definitely seeing a bigger shift in, especially around families, families going out and doing those things together. And so we want to foster that and provide tools for people to be able to do that. So one of the things that again shifted for me when I started working with the department is very focused just on youth. We need to get youth involved in the outdoors, and probably within the last 4 or 5 years that mindset's also shifted to you need to have the whole family involved, because if you only teach the kids and the parents aren't active in the sport, it sort of falls off. And we're seeing a lot of parents who didn't grow up with the opportunity to learn to fish or do other outdoor recreational activities. So we've sort of opened up those events to make them family friendly. So if mom and dad want to try or want to learn about it too, we encourage that. It's really important. Or grandparents or aunts and uncles or whoever.
You also provide a lot of assistance to some of the youth conservation organizations in the state. That's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate to get involved with Maine Youth Fish and Game early on. I was a board member and then also helped to develop the summer camp that they put on every year that's local.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's an amazing camp. I love it, and I kind of miss being there.
Me too. I think the world of what they do.
I do too. I really do. And I've said for many years, I wish that I could just carbon copy them and plant, Maine Youth Fish and Game Clubs all around the state, because it's such a unique, opportunity to have that property in Milford on the Stud Mill Road, and having the youth only fishing pond that's just tremendous fishing for kids, and a range and a beautiful lodge. It's an incredible facility that was made possible by a community, by people who donated and raised money and have worked hard. So I cannot say enough good about them. I'm really a huge fan of what they do, and they do continue this summer camp that's centered around getting kids involved in fishing and shooting sports and being, responsible users of our resources.
I think one of the things I like most about it is because I've gone to their winter and summer events several times and radio shows on it, but I just love to watch the girls beat the boys.
Every time. I don't know what the science is behind it, but I will say girls tend to be very good shots. So, people have
it's fun to watch.
Encourage that.
I guess this show today is all about hitting the target. The target we're trying to hit right now is how to market Maine in a way that brings in more customers. Could be sportsmen, could be wildlife watchers, could be Mainers visiting parts of the state they don't usually go to. Frankly, Maine didn't used to be very sophisticated about this, nor were there many states that actually are. But Emily McCabe and her team at the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife has upped their game. I-W is doing some pretty fancy stuff these days. So that's next as Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine continues on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket, with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. It's a wild Maine we like to make some money off of. We have great experiences to offer tourists away from the lobsters and lighthouses of the coast. It's hunting and fishing, it's adventure like mountain biking and whitewater rafting, it's moose watching, bird watching. You can wake up in a lakeside cabin anywhere in the U.S., but how many of them have loons calling outside the cabin window? Most of the promotional responsibility falls in the Maine Office of Tourism, but some of it is a task with the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I'm with Emily McCabe in her office at I-W. In order to pull this off, you have to understand your market, your target, your audience, and you're doing stuff now, Emily, that you didn't used to.
Absolutely. And that's been really interesting in my job. And as my job has evolved here at the agency over the years, I've learned a lot about that. And like I alluded to before, I always thought of our audience absolutely 100% as our traditional users. That was really all I was focused on doing, was recruiting hunters and anglers, communicating with our hunters and anglers about being responsible users, and really hadn't focused much at all on the rest of our public. And our public, covers everybody, people who live here, people who visit here, everything from the individual who walks their dog on, somebody's private property that they've allowed access to, or rides their horse, to somebody who enjoys bird watching, to somebody who has a nuisance woodpecker in their yard and needs assistance with that. I mean, the gamut of the individuals who have a connection to us, is sort of endless. So we've worked really hard in the last couple of years to understand who our public is, where we're not communicating well. And we did a lot of research, we did a lot of public surveying, and got some really good information that's helped us form a new plan. So of course, we're not going to drop off the communication that we have with our traditional users. We're going to continue to foster that, and we're getting ready to look into adopting what's referred to as R3. It's a national movement. It's a strategy to continue to not only recruit anglers, but to also re-engage anglers, hunters, and anglers that have lapsed. Somebody who bought a license twice and then didn't buy one for 2 years, looking at those individuals and saying, what can we provide to you to help you get back into the sport? So we're going to be developing a plan for that, and that will include both out-of-state and in-state efforts. And then alongside that, we're launching a major communication campaign to bridge the gap between what we think of as our traditional users and what we dub our non-consumptive users. I don't like that term, but that's the term that we use. And to help not only, bridge the gap between them, help them understand the role that hunting and fishing plays in wildlife management, but also encourage them to see themselves as active participants in protecting and responsibly using our resources. So it's a whole new kind of world for us. And like I mentioned, working with professional vendors has just opened up so many doors for us. The new ways of communicating with people are really exciting and interesting, and the more we learn about how we can dial down into specific audiences, the cooler it is, and it can be done for very small amount of money. You know, you look at traditional advertising costs for print ads and television ads, and a small agency like ours certainly doesn't have a budget for that. But when you look at digital marketing and communications campaigns around that, the reach is huge and the cost is fairly minimal. So that's really exciting for us, and people are going to start seeing a lot more of that from us.
So when you did all this research on your market, what surprised you the most?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know, and I knew I was springing this
honestly,
one on you. So.
what surprised me was that we were doing better than we thought. I think maybe this is true for anyone in any business, but especially for us in state government, we hear the negative feedback the loudest, and sometimes it's hard for us not to feel like we're just treading water, we're not doing a good job, you know, people don't understand us.
I have done business research before, and discovered that I was doing worse than I thought. So
oh, well, that's not what you want.
It goes the other way too.
But it was nice to hear that you know, in general, the public sees us as the resource for the best information, for the most knowledgeable people in the arena. So that was really, surprising maybe for all of us, because like I said, we always think that we're not doing a good job. I don't know, maybe that's human nature. So it was good to hear that we were doing a good job, but really, I think the other thing that surprised me was what I was just speaking of, is that we were missing a whole audience, that it just didn't occur to me we needed to communicate with. It sounds so silly, but, you know, it really, once I started to wrap my mind around it, I'm like, this absolutely makes sense, and this is the direction we need to move in. And it's hard to explain it on a daily basis to everyone why we would do that, but I think in the long run, it's going to make communication so much easier for us and help us really blend our audience much better than they are now.
Well, I think you said it right when you said non-consumptive user, which is a horrible term.
I don't like it. I know. I need a better one for that.
Yeah, I go out in the Maine North Woods. I'm interacting with grouse hunters all the time out there. I see one go down one road, I'll just go down the other and do my thing down there. But we're doing the same thing. I'm just not bringing anything back.
Right.
Aside from that, I'm doing exactly what all the hunting.
You're enjoying the outdoors,
you
know, with just a different end goal, perhaps. But, you know, finding common ground like that is really important, and that's what we're going to focus on doing.
I had a funny experience last year. I was just in the woods looking for places for spruce grouse, which is not huntable in the state.
Right.
But it was during rough grouse hunting season, and I discovered off the Telos Road, there's no side road you can go down that doesn't have a hunter on it. So I was doing my exploration and running into pickup trucks everywhere. I follow one guy, and I'm interested in the rough grouse too. I'm following him down this one road. He gets out. He's on a grouse. He shoots it. He takes it home. I go just a little further ahead of him. There's another grouse in the road. I got my camera, take photos.
Yeah.
We both did basically the same thing. So we have to come up with a better term than non-consumptive user.
Yeah, and we also need to help everybody who's out there as a user have respect for one another and understand that everybody's out there, you know, really should have the same rights to enjoy it, and that's important too. So that's a good example that you shared.
Well, furthermore, grouse taste really good.
Well, yeah, we can't disagree there.
So you're conducting the market studies and the research, and now you're really creating campaigns. Not just little viral videos or anything like that. It's whole campaigns.
A whole campaign.
Who are you, and what have you done with IFNW?
New world. It's so exciting. It really is, and especially for, you know, someone like myself who's been here for a lot of years, and I've seen not only changes with our agency, but changes in how communication works. And I'm proud of us for taking steps ahead and embracing that, going against just doing the same thing that, you know, which sometimes happens in state government. You know, you just kind of,
you think?
You know, you do, something's seemingly working, so you just keep doing it. So, you know,
something seemingly not working,
or something not working, you still keep doing it. Yeah, that's a good point. But, you know, I think for us, this is, it's really exciting, and I think it's setting a new tempo, a new pace for the way we are using our resources to do more. And additionally, we've worked really hard to involve the public in how we move ahead. I'll use the law books as an example. We made a pretty significant decision last year to overhaul those law books and make them different. And
thank God.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, because it was a ton of work, but we made the changes based off of the feedback that we got from conducting focus groups with the public. And instead of us making the decision about how we thought the information should be presented, which is an odd position to be in because we understand the information at a different level than the public. And so it's, we're trying to tell people this information and it just doesn't make sense. So taking a step back and saying, okay, let's hear from the public where they struggle with this information. Immediately, it was obvious that having advertising and lots of clutter in the books was making it difficult for people to even find the information, which is confusing enough as it is. So we made the decision to eliminate that. We're rebuilding our website right now, which obviously is in great need.
Then you noticed.
Yeah, we've noticed. Our website is obviously an extremely important tool for the public to get information from us. And so we're building a brand new website rather than just trying to fix the one we have. Our website is very burdened with information. And so we're using Google Analytics and we're looking at what people are looking for on our site, and we're designing the site to be a tool for them instead of just a tool for us. I know it's easy to complain and say, state government websites are horrible, but it's a lot of work and we don't have a lot of resources.
Right, exactly.
So we've done the best we can over the years, but this will be a big change for us. And I think people will like it.
You're not the only state in this boat.
Right, I know.
I'm sure you're aware I had a bill in a couple of years ago, inspired by somebody else, to improve marketing within the department. One of the things I did is look at the websites of a lot of other states. And they were all doing basically the same thing. Yeah. They weren't attractive. They were portals.
Yeah.
It's like, here's where you get all the information on our website, but no reason why you would be attracted to it in the first place.
Yeah, and again, that's another way that Fish and Wildlife is unique. If we are hoping to fill a void and attracting people to our state and get people involved in the outdoors, our site can't simply just be a landing place for boring information. It needs to be attractive. It needs to sell the experience, and state government isn't necessarily a template for that. So we kind of have to, work within the rules, of course, but also, do a really good job of making our website attractive to someone. When they click on it, we want them to look at it and say, hey, Maine looks like an amazing place to be.
Well, that's just it. I mean, let's take bear hunting. A traditional state website you would go onto it to find out about bear hunting, and it would tell you how to buy a license.
And that would probably be it.
And it wouldn't tell you why you should want to choose this state over some other state.
And that's a really good example. So as I mentioned before, we're revamping our hunting guide, which will be a printed publication, but that content will also be applied to our new website. And so instead of just having a section that talks about how black bears are managed in Maine, or how you can buy your license, there's information on there about how to be successful if you want to hunt bear in Maine, or other species as well. But we want it to be a tool not just for buying your license, but also give you the information you need to be successful with it and safe.
Yeah, and people need to realize our bears are smarter than other bears.
They really are.
Oh, they are, because we trained them to be smart.
Yeah.
We took out the dumb ones.
I'm a bear hunter, and it's not an easy sport. It's not as easy as I think people believe it is. I spent a lot of time unsuccessful.
They are so smart.
They're really smart.
They are smarter than the average bear. My guest is Emily McCabe, who handles a lot of the marketing and promotion for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Maine's got a lot to offer, but how do we get the rest of the world to know about it so they'll bring us their money? It's not just hunting and fishing, but that is a big part of it. And technically, we have only 4 big game species, some of which are in short supply. What to do? Stay with me. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Today's show is about marketing Maine, but not the marketing of lobsters and lighthouses that we so often use to brand the state to attract tourists. No, this is the kind of stuff that the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife deals with. Hunting and fishing, of course, but also a lot of adventure and wildlife watching activities over which the department has supervision. And even marketing our traditional sports has its challenges. Emily McCabe does a lot of the marketing for IFW. We're in her office. Emily, we have too many turkeys, too many bears, not enough moose, and we've got a good deer herd in some places, not so good in others. What do you do?
You really need to tell the story of the overall experience in Maine. Yes, you could hunt whitetails in Pennsylvania and,
Would run into your car.
Yeah. I mean, they have a different, Maine is at the northern range of whitetail population. So I think what makes it exciting, at least to me, is the challenge of it, that you have to have a different hunting strategy than you would in other states. And so if you can sell that experience to people that you're going to be coming to Maine and you're going to be doing big woods hunting, you're going to be tracking, you're going to be moving, hiking, exploring while you're here. For me, hunting and fishing is about anticipation anyway. I mean, really, being successful is great, and having meat in the freezer is great. I really enjoy eating game meat, but the experience of being out there, the anticipation of being successful, and all of the other things you enjoy while you're out there are part of the experience. And I don't know that you necessarily get that in every state. We have huge tracts of land that you can hunt on, that you have access to. You know, I've been out west, and it's difficult to access land to hunt on.
It's all private, and they won't let you on.
They may have tons of game, but the overall experience of hunting there is very different. So I think that's a key message that needs a story that needs to be told, and we try to do that through working with outdoor writers and helping them have the experience so that they can write about it. In the future, I think we'll go further with that, and maybe even use it as an advertising strategy and have individuals go out and experience these and then tell the story through social media or writing articles for us and things like that. But I think that the key piece to explaining to people why Maine is so amazing is talking about the experience of being in the outdoors and enjoying it. I think we also have to be careful when we get wrapped up in talking very negatively about things like, oh, we have no deer in Maine. I mean, that's absolutely not true.
It's not.
It's not true at all. But that message gets out there, and that spreads beyond our state line. And we don't want people to think that we don't have any deer in Maine, because it's not true. And
just go to any backyard.
Yeah, and I see it when I go to the out-of-state shows that message has carried out, that people have heard that, or they, and once it's introduced in their mind, they believe it, and they aren't going to spend their money to come here. So I think it's important to be careful about that too, and really, be honest when there are issues with, we have bad winters. We do have years where the deer herd is affected, but, they didn't disappear overnight.
For a long time, watchable wildlife was a buzz phrase.
It is a buzz phrase.
It still is, but I don't hear it as much as I used to. Have we changed our language, or have we changed our approach?
I can't say that we have. I think that we've just sort of maybe drifted off a bit on and really promoting how much opportunity there is to watch wildlife in Maine, and that's something that we'll kind of re-engage with. Maine has a tremendous opportunity to win, and obviously you enjoy that and realize how much opportunity there is. So yeah, for people who are interested in coming to our state and just seeing lots of diverse types of wildlife, there's plenty of places to do it. We have access to it, and we even have people who are experts at taking you out and helping you find what you're looking for. If it's a moose that you've been just dying to see, that can happen here, and along with that, an overall experience that you're never going to forget, because you're going to see other things too while you're out there.
Well, furthermore, you're doing it around really drop-dead scenery.
I know.
It's like, yes, we have a lot of critters. By the way, the backdrop is equally cool.
No, once in a while I'll have that moment where I grew up in Maine. If I'm the biggest homebody there probably ever was. I don't leave Maine much, and sometimes you become almost just unaware of how amazing it is, and sometimes I'll be out doing something and all of a sudden I'll just be like, I can't believe we live here. This is amazing.
Exactly.
You'll see this view or see something that you're just like, man, I take this for granted sometimes.
Well, I get down east and I think about all those poor people who stopped and didn't come north of Acadia.
I know. I'm a huge fan of the county. I love going to northern Maine, and I spend time up there, and I think, I can't believe more people don't come up here. It's just gorgeous.
There's a lot of roads around the Caribou area that go into the woods that, and nobody else is there except a few loggers.
Yeah, if you really want to get away, have a break from the busy daily life, that is the place to be.
And if you've never tried one of Maine's traditional sporting camps, for God's sakes, do it.
That's another thing that I am so fascinated. I think that is something that's very unique about our state, is just this network of traditional sporting camps that, it's about the food and the the traditional lodging style and the overall experience. And I've visited other states. I've fished in other states. I've stayed in what they consider a sporting camp, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
I think that anybody who's looking for a unique opportunity to plan a trip to Maine and look at all the options you have for these sporting camps. I've just been there for generations. And
yeah, it's like
amazing.
camping in the tenting section of Cabela's. It's those sporting camps in other states.
Yeah, it's totally different. And the food, the biggest thing I noticed when I went to Arkansas and stayed in a sporting camp, they call it, and the food was terrible. And in my mind, I was thinking, don't you know how important the food is at a sporting camp?
I have never.
The fishing was good, so they made up for it in that area.
I've never had a bad meal at a sporting camp.
Neither have I. Too many good ones, actually.
Yeah. Well, Emily, any last thoughts that everybody should know about the department's efforts on marketing this great state of Maine?
I just think that everybody's going to start to really see a change and a higher volume of communication from us, and we hope that it improves people's experience, not just people who visit Maine, but the people who live here, the people who enjoy wildlife, watchable wildlife, to the people who are avid hunters and anglers. I think they're going to see a huge improvement from us in that area, and I'm excited about it, and I look forward to people's feedback on it.
Well, we got a great big state. Let's use it all.
Yeah.
Emily McCabe from the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. So how did you do? At the beginning of the show, I offered a challenge. If it were your job to market our scenery, wildlife, hunting, fishing, boating, snowmobiling, and all those outdoor experiences, how would you do it? Hey, if you got any ideas, pass it on. New Hampshire's got a few wild places, but it's mostly a national forest. Vermont is mostly cows. Is there any other state east of the Mississippi that has as much wild as Maine? When you've got something unique to offer, you get a chance to improve your economy. Hopefully, we're getting better at it. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and DBS. Join me again next Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.